Alright, it's been a week. I actually ran into some problems in getting stuff filmed on this channel because my memory card was AFK for quite some time. But we're back. So this is the Shadow Paladin deck that I played in Chicago for the ARG last weekend. I'll go through here and explain some of my card choices and reasonings behind some of my choices. Of course, Judge Derp, best starting Vanguard in the game, in my opinion, turns into a +3, calls out 2 units, and lets you draw 2 cards. Ridiculous. This card ever gets hit, we'll just go to Creeping Dark Goat. So this card, too good. My triggers were pretty standard as every Shadow Paladin player. 4 draw, 4 heal, and of course 8 crit. I've seen some crazy stuff in Japan with like 9 crits, 12 crits, but I like the draw trigger advantage. So not really much else to explain in the beginning of the deck. Alright, 2 Swordbreaker. I have seen a lot of people attempt to play 3 of this. No, 2 is good. If they get checked, oh well, you call it Doran instead. If you have to ride it, I mean, it happens. But you don't want to bulk down the deck with too many of these. If you only get 1 off, congratulations. I mean, you still only get a +2 off your Judge Bow. But the thing is, at the end of it, it still works out. 3 I found to be too inconsistent in testing, and 2 is just right in my opinion. Of course, 4 Dorant, 4 Maclear, and now we're going to start getting into the techie stuff. 4 Grade 1 Masquerade. Now, I was testing around with Adrian Horad, the Witch tap 1, draw 1, or discard 1, draw 1. I didn't like it. I found out, if you guys saw me play a lot of my matches, you guys saw me be aggro. And one of the things I tried to do with this deck was, when playing against CEO, you need to push for early game. Because if a CEO player sees you going aggro on them, they really won't know what to do. Because they'll be like, what's going on? Their deck is meant to power up their Vanguard column. If you're hitting them for damage, you can choose to progress the game state faster in your favor. So one of the things I found Masquerade doing, if my opponent goes first and rides, I can call this to rearguard and I get 2 turns of value out of it. The fact that they're at grade 1 and the fact that they're at grade 2, because it'll be a 10k attacker. When they get to grade 3, it turns into a booster, unless they have some 10k base, which doesn't exist. But the thing is, I found that this card was ridiculously good in the early game, and I found that the early game pushes were much more to my advantage against CEO and general things like that, especially in testing in the Vanguardians tournament. The deck progressively changed throughout the stage of it. I just like this card. The early game beats are way too important. Alright, on to grade 2s. 4 Abyss Blaster Dark. Something that a lot of people don't do with this card, and it irks me, is this card clears columns. If your opponent has a 9k and a booster, you use this, kill the booster, kill the 9k, it kills a column, and it forces your opponent to drop more cards from their hand, and it's also an interceptor. This card has too much frequent value, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. This card is really busted for the counterblasting 1 to clear out an entire column in and in itself. So he is the value maker. Of course, 4 Blaster Dark. You mainly use him to clear out columns, or to clear out front row columns, and mainly for his damage on flipping with Dorant. I really haven't done much else with this guy, sad as that is. Really wasn't much else. I always found Abyss doing more work than him. And then my last grade 2s were Masquerade. Now, Masquerade is kind of an important talk about here with Mordred. Now, typically, when you break ride Abyss, we'll just finish up the deck provider. When you break ride Abyss on top of this, a lot of people want to summon Macret out of their deck to generate more columns. Now, when I was testing Mac Twerp. This terrible card right here. I do not like this card. I think this card is awful, and this card is only good when you're behind. Yes, it does generate free advantage when you do Legion, but the advantage doesn't do anything because he's just basically a 9k by himself. Now, yeah, he's 14 when you break right him out, but the thing I found most of the time was when I break right, I would call out either the draw card, or I would typically go for a Transient Masquerade or some kind of booster, but depending on it, or a attacker. Now, I found that in times where I didn't have the break right, Masquerade was a column, 12k, no boosters. He is a standalone unit against most of your opponent's cards. And Macro requires a booster to gain the same result. I found that pushing for the earlier advantage over the Grand Slam, basically Mordred with Macro is win more. Or if you're in a losing position, Macro would get you advantage. I had massive hand advantage against a Shadow Paladin player. Macro let him get his advantage back up to fuel his dragon, but the thing was, I already won the game because I just had too much card advantage already. You know, like I said, Macro can get you where you need to be. It's just the way that I was playing the deck aggressively in most of the matches, there was no reason to ever need Macro. And you know, I was talking to a few other Shadow Paladin players, and a lot of them disagree with the logic. But going aggro against a lot of players catches them off guard, especially in your CEO matchup, like I was talking about earlier. You know, just them early game beats will get you there. So, that's that. So, that's my Shadow Paladin, guys. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. I hope my reasoning behind some of my card choices actually helps you guys out a little bit. Leave a comment down below, and I'm out.